Hello students, today I will discuss on the short story The White Stocking by D.H. Lawrence. As you know that D.H. Lawrence is actually very famous for his novels because D.H. Lawrence wrote the novels like Lady Chatterley's Lover, Sons and Lovers, The Rainbow, Women in Love, but at the same time the short stories like The Rocking Horse Winner, Odor of Chrysanthemums, The Prussian Officer, The Fox, all these texts are also very significant and very important regarding its impact on the human psyche, and also they are considered to be wonderful piece of literature. Now, White Stocking, as you know, is in your syllabus, and along with this particular text we will know something about D.H. Lawrence first. D.H. Lawrence is considered to be a major English writer, and he took birth in the year 1885 and he died in the year 1930. From the very beginning of his literary career, Lawrence is often considered to be controversial, yet pioneering exploration of human relationships, overt form of sexuality, and the psychological effects of industrial society. All these things have been taken into consideration in the writings of D.H. Lawrence. As I have already mentioned, the D.H. Lawrence obviously dealt with the novels, but at the same time, the texts that I have mentioned just now, the short stories, they are also considered to be the modernist texts. All the features of modernism can be found to be present within these texts, and he is also known for his departure from traditional narrative forms, and also his use of psychological realism is overtly being discussed in each and every kind of the short story that have been ascribed to D.H. Lawrence altogether. Now, when we consider the text The White Stocking, as you know that the title of The White Stocking is very significant because it actually encapsulates the basic focus on a particular object, and that is the white stocking. Now, before going to the text, I will think about the setting. As you can see here, that the setting of this short story, The White Stocking, is a mining town in early 20th century England. And if you just go through the text of The White Stocking, you will find that the characters are very short in number. You will find there are major three characters. The first one is Elsie Whiston, who is considered to be the protagonist of this particular text. She is a lively woman who feels stifled by her marriage. There is Charles Whiston, who is being considered as Mr. Whiston in this text. Mr. Whiston is the husband of Elsie Whiston. He is considered as a possessive and jealous personality, but the kind of jealousy that he does possess, it is obviously coming from a particular identity crisis that he is actually facing. Along with Charles Whiston, there you will get another character whose name is Sam Adams. And this Sam Adams is considered as the wealthy colliery manager, and he is considered as Elsie's former admirer. As you can find that Charles Whiston and Sam Adams, they have been posited, they have been presented as the foil to each other. That means they are the characters in contrast. When you will find that Sam Adams is representing the upper strata of society, he is to be considered as a bourgeois capitalist. At another point, you will find Charles Whiston, who is the husband of the protagonist of this particular text, that is Elsie Whiston. Charles Whiston is referring to the working class personality. So what happens in this particular text, as you will go through the text, you will know it, that it's a kind of a problem that occurs within the working class love. Because here you will find a couple, Charles Whiston or Mr. Whiston and Elsie Whiston as Mrs. Whiston. Now the kind of relationship that they do possess and the kind of relationship that is continuing, it is completely being affected by the financial prosperity of Sam Adams, and the kind of depravity that is being attached with Elsie Whiston is due to the kind of lack in the finance and economic crisis that they are facing in daily day-to-day life. Now, so far as the narrative technique of this particular text is concerned, you will find that the text is being written in third-person omniscient narrative. What is third-person omniscient narrative? An omniscient narrator knows everything. He focuses on the psyche of each and every kind of a character. It is not simply describing what is happening in front of you, but at the same time, they are actually focusing on the innermost part of one's psyche and the turbulence and the anxiety and different kinds of psychological aberrations and the crisis that they are facing each and every moment. So that's why whenever we will go through the text of the White Stocking, we find that the narrative is omniscient. They know everything about what is going on within the mind of each and every personality. The kind of description that it describes, you will find that these are associated with the past and the present altogether. So that's why it has been mentioned in the narrative pattern that there is a flashback technique. You know, the term flashback is often being associated with cinematography. Here also you will find a flashback technique has been incorporated. It is just like a cinema, just like a movie. You will find that here also the past and present merges. So what is very significant and what is very important in this particular text, you will find that here the past is actually haunting the present, and present is actually being completely being driven and derided by the past. So it is the reworking or the working, mutual cojoinder, the mutual working of the past and present that is at the primary focus. Now, when we think about the themes of discussion, that means what are the major themes that White Stocking, this particular short story, is actually focusing at. Here I have mentioned 4 particular agenda. These are the agenda that should be considered with great detail. You see, the first thing that is taken for consideration, it is the marital conflict and the ownership. You see that being placed in a typical patriarchal society, you will find that one female character is completely being driven, completely being guided and completely being controlled by 2 male figures here. Now, what happens when a female thinks otherwise? You see that in a typical patriarchal society, a female has been completely being framed. A female has to deal according to the doctrines or according to the directives that have been provided by the patriarchal society or the members of the patriarchy. But here you will find Elsie Whiston, she moves in a different direction. Somehow the kind of crisis, whether it is financial, whether it is psychological, whether it is economic or whether it is social, the kind of crisis that the person actually feels, it actually leads the character, the female character, towards a maxim that might not be controlled by the male personality. Here it is being represented by the husband of Elsie Whiston, that is Mr. Whiston. Now that's why there is a kind of a marital conflict. Why? Because somehow here you will find that it is an extramarital affair that have been taken into consideration. But somehow the kind of attachment, whether it is financial or whether it is completely physical, you know, they are just following the basic trains of D.H. Lawrence's writings. In the other writings also you will find the similar kind of traits being incorporated. Here also you will find that somehow the extramarital affair is being considered as an continuation of a previous affair. The kind of relationship that was present within Mrs. Whiston, that is Elsie Whiston and Sam Adams, it was, much earlier. It was before the marriage actually taken place between Mr. and Mrs. Whiston. But the same thing, the incidents, the dance episode that you can see when you will go through the text, the dance episode of the past and the kind of relationship that they do possess, it actually haunts the present. So that's why here marital conflict and ownership that is taken into consideration. It actually incorporates the struggle for power and control within a marriage. Now, marriage itself is considered to be a typical patriarchal capitalist design. But within the periphery of this particular reference, you will find that what happens when the proprietorship actually vanishes. And somehow what happens here, as you see, that the white stocking, that is the symbol, the titular symbol, as you see, it symbolizes possession. Okay, what happens? Just I will not go with the text. I will not go with the story of the text, the white stocking, but somehow I have to say 2 or 3 words on it. This is a story that is based on a kind of love affairs between Sam Adams, the owner of the company, and the worker, that is Elsie. And afterwards, Elsie was married to Mr. Whiston. And then later, the relationship that was between Elsie and Sam Adams, it continues to affect the relationship between Mr. Whiston and Mrs. Whiston. So there, the Valentine gifts, first it was the amethyst brooch, and then there was the white stocking. Everything actually symbolically representing somehow the possessiveness or the possession or the control over the female body that has been represented by the Elsie here. Somehow, that's the second theme that is to be considered here. It is the repressed desire and sexuality. It is overtly discussing the psychological crisis that the female character, that is Mrs. Whiston, is facing at this moment. The kind of desire that is completely being repressed due to the social order. The kind of sexuality or the sexual desires that she has, it continues to be haunting the personality, that is the female person who is present here. Elsie's flirtation with Sam Adams, it represents her yearning for a more fulfilling life and her repressed desires. You see, as I've already mentioned, that Mr. Whiston and Sam Adams, they are to be considered as foil to each other. They are the characters in contrast. You will find the kind of physical description that have been provided by D.H. Lawrence in this particular text and the kind of physical description of Mr. Whiston. These are completely contrary to each other. So, regarding the traits, regarding the presence, regarding the appearance, regarding the appeal, regarding the physical presence, and at the same time regarding the financial position and the social position, everywhere you will find a complete binary, a complete discrimination, a complete dichotomy has been created. And somehow you will find that the character, that is Mrs. Whiston or Elsie Whiston, she is actually torn apart. One particular self is considering to be the desire or the sexuality or the repressed desire. Her another self is representing the social responsibilities, the kind of relationship that she possesses, the relationship with her husband. So at one point there is social obligations, at another point there is the repressed desire. Now the text is actually focusing on these two extremes. The clash is between these two extremes. At one side there is desire, at another side there is responsibility. So that's why regarding all these things, regarding the playing of the unconscious, regarding the unconscious repressed desires and its outcome, you will find that social class and power, it plays a very important role. So at one point you find the conflict between Charles and another point, the Sam Adams, it highlights the class tensions. So that's why this text is to be considered as focusing on the working class love and how it has been completely being reconciliated at the end of the story. Now, towards the end of the story, you will find that somehow Elsie or Mrs. Whiston, she suffers from, it's a kind of a guilt consciousness. And due to this guilt consciousness, when Mr. Whiston actually slaps her and Mr. Whiston tries to control the indomitable desire that was present within his wife, it actually incorporates a kind of a reconciliation. The guilt-ridden, the guilt-conscious self of Mrs. Whiston makes her feel that what I have done is a complete blunder. What I have done, it is not completely being acceptable within the periphery of a social, quote-unquote justice. So therefore, at the ending of the story, we find that all the desires, all the sexuality has been completely being controlled by her. Now the question is, towards the ending of the story, whether this will lead to a complete reconciliation or not. Can someone control her desires for the lifetime? That is an open-ended question here. You see that here, while dealing with the text of the White Stocking, you will find D.H. Lawrence is actually referring to or using some psychological realism, where Lawrence delves deep into the character's inner turmoil. He uses vivid descriptions to convey their emotional states, such as Charles's rage or Elsie's shame and defiance and different kinds of things. And at the same time, to represent everything, you see, Lawrence uses symbolism. You see that symbolism plays a very important role here. The symbolism of the stocking, which is the luxurious item that represents a life outside of Elsie's working class reality. The orientation of the dance that actually exposes the desires, the repressed sexuality, the repressed, yearnings, the psychological underpinnings. Everything has been used by D.H. Lawrence to underscore the particular kind of a crisis and its outcome in general. And also at the same time, you will find the Valentine gifts and last, the reconciliation. Everything has been taken in consideration here to represent the characters and their innermost psyche in a typical Lawrence style. When you think about the major questions and topics, I have just made a kind of a list of the topics that is important for your examination. Here you will find the first question or first topic, comment on the theme of working class love as presented in the story The White Stocking, or it is also comment on the social issues. You see, this is a story, as I've already mentioned, where the social issues on the one side and the desires on the other, and a character is completely being, compartmentalized, is a sandwiched form, okay? So Elsie is in midst of the social issues, the working class love, and at the same time the inner more desires. The kind of financial difference that actually leads her to think in a different way. The second topic is the man-woman relationship in the story. So you see, if you just place the woman at the center and two persons, Sam Adams and Mr. Whiston, at two different maxims, you will find the kind of torment, the kind of conflict that is being roused in terms of the relationships. The third one describes the dance episode and the related conflicts between love and lust as represented in the characters of the story, The White Stocking. So these are actually referring to the psychological, social, and different kinds of ideological conflicts. Regarding the ending of the story, I have already mentioned that whether the reconciliation is appropriate or not, whether these are indicative that somehow in the later period of time, there will arise the different kinds of issues or the similar kind of issues in different times. When it is the titular symbol of the white stocking, the question is, describe how the titular symbol of a white stocking brings out the major theme of the story. As I've already mentioned, white stocking is symbolic. It is a symbol of possession. White stocking is coming out of the pockets. So that's why you will find that white stocking is also being associated with the inner core part of someone's psyche. So it is obviously psychological. You have to deal with it. And the last but not least, it is comment on the role and significance of all the major characters. You have to deal with Mrs. Whiston number 1, Mr. Whiston number 2, and Sam Adams obviously. If you just go through all these things, then it will be very easy for you to deal with the short story, the wonderful short story, The White Stocking by D.H. Lawrence. Thank you.